Hello. um, so this video is actually going to be a Mother's Day video. So I kind of decided to please stay. Come on, up, come. I claim him as my kid, but he doesn't want to stay for the video, for the Mother's Day video. I love him, I do. Maybe he'll come back later. I don't know. Okay, so as I said, this is going to be a Mother's Day video. It's actually going to be One Piece themed Mother's Day video. Too bad the jingling isn't jewelry. Well, it's jewelry for the dog. It's not jewelry for me. He's in debate mode. Let's see if he decides to stick around. Come on, up. Up. Yeah, puppy. He dances. Hi. Okay, so I don't think he's going to stick around. Do you want to stay or not? Up. 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 Sit. Do you want to stick around? Do you want to help? Well, I have him here. I might as well finish up with this part before he decides to skedaddle again. So, Mother's Day video for One Piece. Background, we got flowers for Mother's Day because it's, it's a good idea to give your mother either flowers or a card at the very least for Mother's Day, if she's a good mom. And then we have two bears because, bears are some of the fiercest mothers in the animal kingdom. That's a good thing. Fierce moms are a good thing. Some of the moms in One Piece are very fierce and very protective of their children. Which, like Belle-mere, which is why I have my hair in a ponytail today, because Belle-mere has her hair in a ponytail. And Belle-mere is one of my favorite One Piece moms. And she was extremely protective of Nami and Nojiko for very important reasons. So I will be talking about her. I'm going to be talking about the main characters' mothers, obviously, so all the Straw Hat mothers that we know about, or their surrogate mothers in Luffy's case, since we don't know his biological mother. I will be going over some of the other mothers that are very prevalent in the story, that are very important to different aspects of the story. So I will be talking about Big Mom, and I will be talking about like Otohime and Scarlet from Dressrosa. So it's not just going to be, I'm just going to talk about these specific characters' moms. I'm going to kind of run the gambit of a lot of the different moms from One Piece. I'm not going to do like an entire like breakdown of like, okay, I'm going to break down everything about Big Mom. It's going to kind of just be like an overview of the different moms, whether they're good moms or bad moms, or some of their highlights or lowlights in some cases of them being mothers. So we will start out with Makino. Makino is a mother in her own right. She has her own child. She has a child during the time skip. We don't know who the child's father is. Everybody wants it to be Shanks, and yeah, I'm one of the people that wants it to be Shanks. So, she has her own son, but she was also, for a long time before Luffy went to, before Garp came back and dropped Luffy off of the mountain bandits with Dawn, Makino was kind of the closest thing to a mother that Luffy had. And, she would take care of him. She probably, sewed his clothes to make sure that there weren't holes in them, or fix them if there were, make sure he had food. We really don't know, where Luffy lived, technically, until Garp took him to go take him to the Dawn. But, maybe he lit, maybe Garp had a house in town, and that's where Luffy lived. And then Makino would come and, take care of him, or maybe he had a room at the bar, up above the bar, where Makino lived, Don't really know too much else besides that. She has her own child, of course, and she also kind of acted as a mother to Ace. As far as I'm aware, I don't think that Makino interacted with Sabo very much. I'm pretty sure that she, met Sabo quite a few times, but we don't really have too much interaction that we see of them either in the manga or in, flashbacks of the anime. We really don't get too much of that interaction, but she was around Ace, and she did try to teach Ace more manners, mostly because he asked her to do a proper thank you so he could, thank Shanks for saving Luffy. Um, and we have that. We also see, of course, that when the news about Sabo broke after Reverie, whatever. After that news broke, we know that she was very, very disheartened, and she was very, very sad, and she had closed up the party's bar for the day. We don't know what happened to Sabo. We don't know. It might have been a combination of, because the rest of the people in Fuchsia Village may not have known, in Fuchsia Village, Fuchsia, whichever, in the village may not have known that Sabo was still alive until that news broke about Reverie, or maybe they may have heard about it because of Dressrosa, but I don't know how much of the prevalence of the Revolutionary Army took, Sabo and Koala and Heck, how prevalent they were in Dressrosa, how much that was publicized. I don't remember if that was particularly publicized, but the others may have heard about that. But it may have been a combination of, oh, they found out that Sabo was still alive, but then now he's either probably captured by the Marines or something else happened. Hopefully Sabo's not dead again. Luffy doesn't need that. He just lost one brother and then spent 2 years thinking he was now alone, and then now he found his other brother, and he knows he's not alone, and then we don't need that to happen to Luffy again. So we have that. And then, of course, along with Makino, I also mentioned Luffy, Ace, and Sabo were all kind of raised by Curly Dawn. Ace very exclusively was raised by Curly Dawn and her mountain bandits when Garp took him there. But Curly Dawn first. I will talk about Rouge. Definitely going to talk about her. First, we're going to talk about Curly Dawn. She is, of course, the head of mountain bandits on Mount Corbo outside of Fuchsia Village on Dawn Island. I can never remember if it's Fuchsia or Fuchsia, so if I go with one and then say the other, I'm sorry. So she's the head of that mountain bandit family. Given the fact of how much she's in the town, from what we see, I don't necessarily think that they actually rob from the people that are in the town. I think that they kind of more provide protection for the people in the town, probably because Garp will arrest them if they don't. But also they kind of maybe care about the people in the town, because we see Dawn and Makino interact quite a bit. Because in one of the cover page stories, I don't remember if it was the cover page story just after Totland, or if it was like the 1 Million Man one. I think it was the one right after Totland, where they showed like Dawn was in Makino's bar with Makino, and everybody was happy as they celebrated Luffy's new bounty, and Dawn is like holding Makino's baby. So we're going to assume that Dawn and Makino get along quite well. Dawn, of course, was given Ace when he was still a baby to raise, and she kind of was a very I would go with a tough love on Dawn's part. We do, of course, learn later that, of course, she very much cared for Luffy and Ace and Sabo when he was around. Garp brought Luffy in when he was about 8 after the whole Shanks incident and everything, and dropped Luffy off with them as well. And Dawn's like, oh great, another one. I do kind of feel sorry for Dawn, a little bit. And then there's, of course, the moment when Sabo shows up and her and the other bandits show up at the house and all 3 boys are sleeping. And she's like, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Why is there an extra 1? That's just a funny bit. Dawn was, of course, as I said, very tough love. She had a lot of problems with the kids, unfortunately, with Luffy and Ace not liking each other right off the bat, and all of that problems. Luffy's a bottomless pit. Ace kind of is too. I don't know if Sabo's as much of a bottomless pit as his brothers, but Luffy definitely is, and Ace kind of seems to be a little bit, maybe not as much as Luffy. So there's all of that problem that the Dawn had with them. Plus, there's, of course, the whole incident with, the Gray Terminal being caught on fire, which is where we very much see one of the first times how much she cares about the kids. She runs into where everything is happening. She fights against, I think it's Blue Jam that she fights against in order to try to protect Ace and Luffy, because Sabo's already been taken back by his parents. We will talk about Sabo's mother. Well, Sabo slash Stelly's mother in a little bit. First, we're going to get to the Straw Hats. And then, of course, Dodon, fought against Blue Jam in order to try to protect Ace and Luffy because, I think they've been tied up to die in the Inferno, and she goes in and saves them. And, so Dodon is quite strong. We know that Dodon has a bounty, but it's never really brought up that much in the story. It's more she's kind of left alone by Garp, because Garp has her raising, of course, Ace and Luffy, and the government finding out about them would not be a good idea. And Dawn never seems to get captured, but then again, we don't see that many Marines running around Dawn Island that aren't in the Goa Kingdom itself, and Fuchsia Village seems to be outside of that range for what the Goa Kingdom cares about. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on certain circumstances. We don't see this obviously at the beginning of the series when Luffy goes off, but Makino is of course there when Luffy leaves to go start his adventure. She's one of the people at the town, at the village, sending him off along with the mayor and along with everybody else, sending him off, and she's rooting for him on his journey and everything because she wants him to achieve his dream. But we don't see, way back in the beginning, we don't see that the Dawn is of course part of the story as well. We don't find out about that until after the Summit War arc, and then we get the whole flashback arc with Luffy's whole flashbacks about Ace and Sabo, and this is where we learn about Sabo. And we have the moment where it's like Luffy was leaving and he went to say goodbye to the Dawn and her group, and of course Luffy is like, well, I never really liked mountain bandits, but you guys were okay, and Luffy's ready to leave, and the Dawn's like got her back to him, and she's just like bawling, and she's like, just leave, you useless child, nobody wants you here. And it's just like, yeah, says the woman who's bawling her eyes out because her last baby is leaving the nest. And we also see how much that Dodon did care about Sabo, even for the short amount of time that he was around, because she, of course, was extremely heartbroken when everybody thought that Sabo had died. When they got the letter from Sabo saying that he was going to leave, and then, of course, they got the news that it seemed like Sabo had been killed by, I think it was Jalmac or whatever, and he was trying to leave the Goa Kingdom when the Celestial Dragons were arriving, which was probably not the smartest idea on Sabo's part. If he'd waited another day, he may have been okay. Leave after the Celestial Dragons go up, because then everybody's going to be focused on the Celestial Dragons and you can escape better. But he wanted to go out and get on his own and everything. But we have a lot of stuff that happens with that, of course. Dodon was, of course, quite sad when that happened. And then, of course, we have the moment both with Dodon and Makino when, after the Summit War, after Ace dies, we have Garp show up at the village, and we have where Dodon is, rightfully so, beating Garp up and crying and everything, and the whole the tears streaming down her face and onto Garp's face, and you were right there when it happened. You were right there, and you couldn't try to save Ace. You could have saved him, and you didn't. And and we have all of that and everything, and we have that moment, and then of course right after that moment is of course when Makino gets between Dodon and Garp, and she's like, "No, Dodon, stop. Can't you tell how much pain Garp is in right now?" And Dodon's like, "No." It's like, Garp, yeah, maybe Garp's in pain, maybe we're in pain from what happened to Ace, but the one that's in the most pain right now is Luffy. And yeah, she raised Luffy and Ace. She raised Sabo for a while. She already thinks that Sabo's, they all think that Sabo's dead at this point in time. And that was always one of the things that always bugged me. How come they never saw Sabo's wanted poster? I can understand maybe why, like in the East Blue, maybe they never saw Sabo's wanted poster, because like the Revolutionary Army wasn't really a huge thing there. I mean, like the people in Fuchsia Village probably knew who Luffy's father was. I mean, they know who Garp is. They can do the math and say monkey, 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 and figure that out. And the Dawn was probably smart enough to figure that out as well for who Luffy's father was. But it's not like those posters probably ever ended up there. What bugs me is, how did Garp not ever know that Sabo was still alive? I mean, it's, Sabo was the second in command of the Revolutionary Army. He was the chief of staff of the Revolutionary Army. I can understand Garp not knowing who Koala was necessarily, or going who like Hack was, but we have Dragon, we have Ivankov, and then we have Bella Betty, and all the others, Karasu and Lindbergh and Morley. We have all of them, and then we have Sabo, and it's like, okay, the others probably all have wanted posters because they know who they are. How the frick did Garp never see Sabo's wanted poster and put 2 and 2 together? That's just one of those things that bugs me. But that'll be like, I'm gonna do like a series of these. I'm gonna do one of these now for Mother's Day. I'm gonna do another one for Brother's Day, which is later on in May, and then I'm gonna do one for Father's Day, which is Father's Day is in June, I think, and then there's Sister's Day, and then there's Grandparents' Day. So I'll be going over those. So Father's Day, I'll talk about Dragon. I'll talk about, Sanji's, jerk of a father, and, the different fathers in the series. But, today is Mother's Day. But, we see how heartbroken Dawn was, and how heartbroken Makino was with everything that happened with Ace and Luffy at Marineford. And, when we do, the cover pages now, we get caught up with the Dawn and her group. And we see at one point, like, a bunch of them are wearing, straw hats like Luffy's, and they're happy and they're being around Makino. The only one in town that doesn't really seem particularly happy about what Luffy has been up to is the mayor. Is Whoop Slap or Wood Slap, whichever. It seems to be the mayor, and he doesn't seem particularly interested in it. He's just like, this is gonna bring a bad name to our town. His father wasn't enough. Now we gotta deal with this brat. But I think that Woodsap is secretly, he is supportive of Luffy. It's just, he has to keep up appearances type of a thing. And now we're going to move on from that. We're going to move on to not the next mother that we're introduced in the series, but we're just going to go down the Straw Hats in order of when they join the crew. We know 0 to nothing about Zoro's mother and father. Closest thing that he had to a father was, Kumina's father. Don't know. That was the closest thing Zoro had to a father. I will be talking about him in the Father's Day video, of course, but not right now. Kumina's mother died at some point. We're assuming she died. We don't ever hear anything else about her or ever see her again after Kumina's born. I don't think she died in childbirth, but maybe she died a little bit later on. And then, of course, we have, why I have the ponytail, Belle-mere. I debated about trying to shave my head, but I'm like, I'm not shaving my head just for a video. And then, of course, we have Belle-mere, who is, of course, the mother of Nami and Nojiko. We learn, of course, about Belle-mere throughout flashbacks with Nami. We learn that, well, we kind of get a slight mention of her. Nami mentions way back when Luffy first meets her that, pirates took someone very important to her a long time ago. And, of course, we learn later on that is her mother. And of course, we see everything that Nami went through when we get her big flashback at Kokoyoshi Village. We find out that, Nami and Nojiko are not actually biological sisters. They are adopted sisters, and Belle-mere is their adopted mother. A lot of people say stepmother, but she wasn't married to their father. She just adopted them. We know that Belle-mere had been a Marine. I don't remember if we ever find out what rank she was, but we see her in in a little bit of a flashback. I think we see her in the chapter 0 or episode 0 that they did the OVA of, that was about Strong World, that kind of showed where everyone was at the point in time when Roger was executed. And we see Belle-mere there as a Marine. And then we find out that, several years later, there was a war at the Oikot Kingdom, and that they were wiped out, and that she was there, and that she found Nojiko holding a baby Nami, and you know, we're assuming that maybe Nami and Nojiko's parents knew each other, or like maybe they were neighbors, so that's how like maybe Nojiko maybe knew Nami's name, or maybe Belle-mere named them. I don't know. But Belle-mere finds them, and then she risks life and limb to get the two kids back to her village, to Kokoyashi Village, where then there's Genzo. And the rest of the people are there, and like she takes them in. She takes Belle-mere, and Belle-mere takes in Nami and Nojiko, and she after she's kind of healed and everything, the rest of the village are like, well, what are you gonna do with the two kids? And she's like, I'm going to adopt them. And all the villagers are just like, is that a good idea? But she's just like, nope, I'm going to adopt them. And she adopts them, and she gives up her whatever rank she had in the Marine. She retires from being a Marine, and she opens up her Makin farm, Tangerine farm. And she starts up that, and of course we have the whole problem where it's they don't always have a large amount of money, unfortunately, or they're very scraping by. Nami gets a lot of hand-me-downs that that Belle-mere sews for her. And of course, we have the problems where, Nojiko or Nami, of course, wants more things. Nami steals the book, and, because she wants to learn about, cartography and map making. And Belle-mere is supportive in Nami's dream as to when to draw the map of the world, because we have the moment where, fortunately, this happens very quickly before Arlong shows up. We have the moment where Nami, of course, stole the book, and then Genzo takes her back to the Belle-mere, and he's like, this brat was trying to shoplift, and gives her back to Belle-mere. And Belle-mere first with Genzo. I'll talk about Genzo with the Father's Day one, because he's basically the closest thing to a father that like Nami and Nojiko have. And he, Belle-mere looks over the map that Nami drew, and she's like, Nami, this is very, very good. You have real skill here and everything. And Nami's like very happy about this, and she's like, well, I want to draw a map of the world. And Belle-mere's like, well, I think that you should. She's very supportive of that. She raises the girls. For Nami is a baby when they find her, and I think Nojiko's about Nojiko's supposed to be like 2, maybe 3 years older than Nami. And Belle-mere, of course, has raised them for the past 7, 8 years, something like that. I don't remember exactly how old Nami was when Arlong came along. I don't remember if she was like 8 or 10. I think it was 8, because I think it's like 10 years that she's been working to try to get what she needs, and Nami is 19 when we meet her at the beginning of, no, Nami is not 19 at the beginning. Nami's 18 at the beginning, because she's a year older than Luffy. Measure the crew's age is based on Luffy. But we have, and then of course we unfortunately have the moment when Arlong shows up at Kokoyashi Village, and he shows up and he starts demanding, the 50,000 for every child and the 100,000 for every adult, for like this tax or whatever for the berry to, pay to be able to keep living. And if you don't have the money to pay, then, I'll make you disappear, type of a thing. And he makes his way through the village, and he gets to Belle-mere's house, and he gets there, and, they're looking over the town charter or the town register or whatever. And, there's like, well, it's just this lady that lives here, so it would just be 100,000 type thing. I think it's like Hachan that's there doing that. And Arlong's like, okay, pay up for the 100,000 and you get to live, type thing. But I like the fact that it's like the entrance his first impression of Belle-mere is Belle-mere coming through the door, and she like has a shotgun pointed down Arlong's throat. And I'm like, I would have been perfectly okay if she pulled the shotgun, if she pulled the trigger. I'm like, yeah, no, that's a good first impression. And she does that. Unfortunately, I don't remember if he bites the muzzle or if like he just, because fishmen are not immune to bullets. We have seen this. They are not immune to bullets, because we see Hachan get shot by the Celestial Dragon later on. And, Otohime, I think, gets shot at one point, but we'll talk about Otohime later. Well, she does get shot at one point when she dies, but I meant when she's protecting Mildegard, but we'll talk about her later. But we have that moment, and she's got the shotgun pointed down Arlong's throat, and I mean, like, she could have pulled the trigger, but then and maybe killed Arlong, but then the rest of the fishmen would have just killed her. And either way, Nami and Nojiko would have been left motherless. And I think it's Genzo and the Doctor are trying to get Nami and Nojiko not to reveal themselves, because if they reveal themselves, then it'll be like, oh well, now they have to pay like 200,000, and Belle-mere only has the 100,000. And Belle-mere, I'm pretty sure that Belle-mere maybe thinks for like maybe a split second of, well, if I claim that I'm the only one that lives here and that there's no kids and there's no one else, then I can just pay the 100,000 and I'll be safe. And then we can figure out what to do with Nami and Nojiko. But if they find out about Nami and Nojiko, then they're going to kill both of them, because they obviously don't have the money to be able to pay. So we know what Belle-mere does. She says, no, that 100,000 is for my 2 daughters. I don't have enough to pay for myself. And of course, this is when Nami and Nojiko run over. They were like hiding in the bushes or whatever. I think the Doctor was trying to keep them away. I don't remember if it was the Doctor or Genzo, one of the two, was trying to keep them away while this was going on. And like they run over and they're like, Nojiko's like, got her arms around them and like holding her daughters to her kind of one last time. And I think it's Arlong. Maybe Arlong was slightly impressed by the fact that this woman from the East Blue was, had the balls to be able to point a gun down, point a gun in its mouth, and almost pull the trigger. Or maybe he's like, maybe sees something there. Arlong thinks that all humans are trash for all intents and purposes, unless they're useful to him, of course. 4 kids dub. Oh god. But so Belle-mere, she says, no, the money is for my 2 daughters. And she stands up and Arlong's like, well, then they're safe, but you don't have enough to pay for yourself. So, pulls out his gun. And, between the manga and the anime, and then between the 4 Kids dub, there's, of course, kind of 3 different versions of this scene. One of them is, of course, well, they all kind of have the same essence to them of, Belle-mere looks at her daughters and she's like, just, keep on smiling, keep dreaming, keep going, just, keep up with that. And then, and she like smiles at the 2 of them. I would have been perfectly fine if like Belle-mere had the will of D, because she like smiles right before she dies. It's like she's staring down Arlong's gun, because he has, in the manga, the gun is pointed at her head. In the anime, the original anime, the gun is pointed at her chest. And then of course in the 4 Kids, it's just him pointing at her like, you're gonna go to the dungeon. It's like, okay. I vaguely understand why they had to edit certain things for 4 Kids, but oh my god. Thank you, Funimation, for getting a hold of One Piece instead. So they have that moment and everything, and of course, kind of Belle-mere's legacy is, unfortunately she dies, and of course, Arlong drags Nami off to join his crew, so she can draw maps for him, and then of course there's the deal of, if you can get 100,000 or 100 million berry, then I'll sell you back your town. And so then Nami works for the next 10 years or so to do that. And then of course the Nojiko and the Doctor and Genzo of course build the grave marker for Belle-mere. And then of course several years later, when we get one of the I don't remember if it's before or after the time skip in One Piece, but we cut back to no, it's after the time skip. I think it's when we cut back to when we're doing the cover page story. I think it's the 100 million man bounty arc or whichever it is, where we get like caught up with everyone, and we have Genzo or Nojiko and Genzo and the Doctor, and then the kid that kind of becomes Nojiko's assistant on the farm. We have them there, and Belle-mere got a new stone cross with her name on it and everything for her gravestone. And Nami just wanted to make her mom proud, and I think that's what she's working towards. And I think now that she's part of the Straw Hats, trying to fulfill her dream, protecting other children, doesn't want other children to have to go through what she went through and everything. And we have that. Luffy also ends up having a moment where he ends up, wandering off during the party after he beats Arlong, where he ends up at the grave. And Genzo, I don't remember if Genzo was at the grave beforehand or if he, found Luffy at the grave. And like, no, Genzo explains what the grave is. And I think Luffy, I don't remember if like Luffy bows to the grave to show like respect to the fact that this was Nami's mother or what, but I do think that he was, I know that Luffy visited the grave. It was not on purpose, but he wandered off and he found the grave. And he, Genzo was there and he explained who it was. Moving on, we have Usopp's mother, Bachina. I can never remember exactly how to pronounce it. We don't really know that much about her. She was married to Yasopp at one point. They're from Syrup Village. We know that when Usopp was quite young, she was very sick, and there was nothing that the doctors could do. I would assume like if Law had come along, or if like Chopper was around, or even like Dr. Kureha showed up or whatever, that they would have been able to figure out what was wrong with her very quickly and be like, this is just a blah 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 blah. Just give her this medicine for like every day for a week, and she'll be fine, and then Usopp won't be an orphan. Um, but Usopp was of course very very upset with his mother dying and everything, and he, that's when he started his, running through the village every day screaming about, pirates are coming, pirates are coming. It was originally, it had been a way to try to, make his mother feel, give his mother some more, make his mother happy to think that his father was coming back. Unfortunately, that doesn't end up happening. And it is still the whole question of, does Yasopp even know that Bachina is dead? That's going to be an interesting conversation when like Usopp and Yasopp end up meeting. Hi, Dad. Hi, son. Nice nose. Nice hair. Mom's dead, and I'm angry at you for abandoning us for so long. I said I wasn't, but I am. Yasopp. Bachina's dead? Aw. I'm sorry. It's like, what's that gotta be? Moving on, we have the next Straw Hat parent, or the next Straw Hat mother. We have Vinsmoke, Sola, or Sora. I think I heard it pronounced Sola in the anime, although I've seen it spelled both with an L and an R, because L's and R's in Japanese. We have her, and her children are, of course, Reiju, Ichiji, Niji, Sanji, and Yonji. Of course, the one that we are, of course, the most familiar with is, of course, Sanji. We don't find out about his mother until the Totland arc, when we are, of course, introduced to his father and his siblings. We know that Sola had been the queen of the Germa Kingdom. We don't exactly know if it was like, maybe it was an arranged marriage between like Judge and her, and like maybe her father had arranged that marriage because, maybe Judge maybe needed money for what he needed, and if he married this princess from this kingdom, then this king would give him more money. We don't know exactly what it was with that. We do know that, they had Reiju, they got married, they had Reiju, and then, Judge did some experiments on Reiju, and then when Sola fell pregnant again a couple of years later, he did experiments on her and experiments on the babies that were developing inside of her, and that resulted in them to the point where he was trying to erase them from having any type of negative emotion, or what Judge would consider a negative emotion. And Sola, of course, did not want this to happen. I would assume that she was like maybe somehow under like 24/7, 365, however many days is in 9 months guard. But she found a way to grab some, whatever it was, poison or whatever it was that she had grabbed, and she drank that, some type of medicine or whatever that was there, or chemical or whatever, that she drank that, and that was supposed to hopefully try to negate what had happened, what Judge had tried to do. Unfortunately, this only works on Sanji because Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji are, of course, all born, the way that Judge wanted them. They all have these, superhuman, the iron skin and, whatever other abilities it was that Judge was trying to put into them. And, of course, they don't really have a whole lot of emotions that aren't what Judge considers useful for battle. And, Sola, unfortunately, then spends several years, most of Sanji's childhood, sick. And the child that she interacts with most is Reiju. I'm kind of thinking that like Judge was probably along the lines of like Sola and Reiju probably interacted quite a bit, and I think that maybe Judge couldn't bear to pull Reiju away from Sola. Sola, she taught Reiju kindness and everything, or at least kind of nurtured that in Sola or in Reiju, and maybe just Judge couldn't bear to pull Reiju away from her. Ichiji, Yonji, and Niji don't seem to have particular interest in their mother by any means. But Sanji, of course, at one point, we have the flashback when, we see him in his childhood when he tries to be like his brothers and that doesn't work. And then he cooks food for his mom and he takes it to where she is, which she doesn't seem to be living in the castle itself. She seems to be living in some other area, probably to keep her away from the other boys or whatever, because he's like, I can't. Judge is like, well, I can't stop, Reiju from going to see her, but I can at least keep the boys away from her. My three perfect children and my one semi-perfect daughter, and then of course there's the failure of the son, which is Sanji. And Sanji still goes and visits his mother and brings him the food, and he brings her the food, and she's just like, this is so good. She's very supportive of him. And unfortunately, she does die when Sanji is still very young. And then, that's when I think shortly after that is like when Judge then decides, oh no, I don't need you anymore, to Sanji, and he's like, no, but I've got your brothers, I've got your sister. They all have, the extra strength, the extra endurance, and everything else that that I wanted in a kid. You're kind of useless to me. So that's when he fakes Sanji's death and locks him up. Sola's legacy is, basically, and she encouraged Sanji to cook, and she made it that Reiju was still somewhat kind. Reiju still has to put on this, I would say it's more of an act, in regards to trying to pretend like she doesn't care about anyone. But, Sanji, I would also think that some of the impotence for Sanji's devotion to women was because his mother and his sister were the only two people in his family that were ever nice to him. And that some of that devotion that he has to women comes from. Moving on to kind of the next Straw Hat parent, we have Dr. Kureha, who is kind of the closest thing to a mother that Chopper has because his, dear mother kind of kicked him out of the herd. Didn't do anything. Dr. Kureha, of course, came into Chopper's life when everything happened with Dr. Heroluck and Wapol and all that problems and everything. And she took Chopper under her wing several years ago, and she, started to train him how to be a doctor. Part of that was basically she didn't want anything to do with him in the beginning, and Heroluck kind of said, please take care of my son. He's a good kid. He's, probably like asked her to, watch after Chopper. And what ends up happening is, Chopper, after what happens with Dr. Heroluck, unfortunately, with, him drinking the sake and then blowing himself up so he doesn't have to die by the mushroom from Chopper. Chopper stands outside of Kureha's tree house, which is just kind of funny. He stands outside of her tree house and like is waving the Jolly Roger flag that he made, with Dr. Heroluck's hat on the grave in the background. He's like, please teach me to be a doctor. I want to become a doctor. I want to be a real doctor. And Kureha's like, fine, but you have to call me Doctrine from now on. And he's like, got it, Doctrine. Oh, of course, in the Funimation or in the 4Kids dub, it was like, call me Dr. K. I'm like, I mean, like, that's okay. That was a translation where I was just like, okay, that's an okay translation or an okay change. It's not like she wanted him to call him. It's not like she wanted him to call her something like just outrageous. It's like, just call me Dr. K instead of Dr. Kureha. I'm like, okay, that's acceptable for an edit, I guess, for a change. And so she then spends the next however many years training Chopper to be a doctor. We know when we meet her in the story, to begin with, she's 138. It was 138 or 139 years old, and she's the oldest character besides Giants that we have met in the story. Mostly just because, I mean, like, Brooke's very old, but the rest of the giants are, quite a bit older than her as well. Some of them are younger than her, but she's the oldest character besides giants that we've interacted with. Um, well, that's not an animal of some kind. Um, she's the oldest humanoid that we've interacted with beyond the giants. Um, but so she's trained to Chopper for the past however many years, and then when Wapple ran away after the the Blackbeard pirates attacked, Chopper and Kureha moved into the castle, and they've turned that into like their home to a degree. And of course, she was quite encouraging of Chopper to go with the Straw Hats, um, and even to the point where she kind of she wanted him to go, but she knew that if she just told, if she was nice and told him to go, it wouldn't work. So I think she kind of chases Chopper out of the castle, and then when on one of the cover pages, before the time skip, we see that Drum Island has now been, the kingdom is now called the Sakura Kingdom after the pink flowers and the pink snow. And she's still in, she's the head doctor there, and she has all those other doctors, Ishii 20 or whatever they're called, and Dalton's the king. And then of course, after the time skip, when we get to Reverie, we have her at Reverie with um, Dalton, and Kureha has a habit of wearing shirts that kind of represent Chopper. Like in one of the cover pages, we see her wearing a shirt that has like a cross. I don't remember I don't think it was a cross or if it was just an X, like Chopper's hat that has like sakura petals around it, and then that's kind of a reference to Chopper because his Jolly Roger has the petals on it, and then of course we have at the Reverie itself, we have when she shows up, she's wearing a shirt that says, like, 100 berry bounty or whatever it was, or wanted 100 bounty or whatever, 100 berry, which, is not a lot. And unless like her connection to Chopper, she'd be fine. She can wear that and they probably just think that it's a joke. Most people think that it's a joke, but she's proud of her, surrogate son. um we'll see what else happens with Kureha, down the line. We'll see, like, maybe if there's like a huge battle that they know is going to happen and they gather up some of their allies, maybe she'll show up with like Dalton and the rest of the Ishin 20, and they'll help with like after like if there's going to be the huge war at either for the Red Line or like the huge war with the Blackbeard pirates, maybe they'll show up and be able to help with that, because Chopper's awesome, but having some extra doctors there might be a good idea. Um, Next Straw Hat parent. Technically, these are flipped a little bit because, Robin joins the crew first, but we meet Frankie's kind of mother figure first, but we're going to go with Nico Olivia first. Nico Olvia first. She is Robin's mother. We know that she was an archaeologist like Robin. They, of course, both come from O'Hara. And when Robin was about, I think it was Robin was supposed to be about 2 or so, 2 going on 3, Olvia left to go on an expedition with a bunch of other archaeologists from O'Hara. And she told Robin goodbye, and she left Robin to be raised by her sister. Olvia's sister was not a nice woman to Robin by any means, but we're not talking about that. We know that all the time that Robin is growing up, she just wants to know what it feels like to have a mom. She sees the way that her aunt is with her cousin, and she probably sees the way that other mothers are with their children, and she just wants that with her mom. And then, of course, when Olvia arrives back at O'Hara when Robin is 8, Robin hears that her mother is coming, and she's running one way, and Olvia is running the other way. And of course, we have the moment where they run right past each other, unfortunately, which is kind of hard to watch. And then, of course, we have the other moment later on when, Olvia is, being, kind of held at gunpoint by, the CP9, and Robin shows up, and like the rest, Clover and the rest of the archaeologists are trying to, try to make sure that Robin doesn't say that she knows how to read the poneglyphs. Um, you know, all Robin had wanted so long was just to be able to hold her mom's hand and like hug her mom and know what that felt like. And I don't blame her with everything that she'd been through as a kid. I don't blame her. But what ends up happening is, of course, you know, Robin unfortunately blurts out that she knows how to read the poneglyphs. And you can just see like Olvia's face fall. I think, I don't know if Saul was there quite yet at that point in time, but like Olvia's face falls, Clover's face falls, all the rest of the archaeologists, their face just fall because now they know that the CP9 are going to try to kill Robin as well. And, Robin is, she ends up running to her mother and she just like hugs her mom. And like Olvia hugs her too. And, we get, the interaction where like, Olvia is like, you're such a brave girl. You're such a smart girl. And I'm so proud of you for everything. And so we have those moments. And then of course we have the moment where, now we have the moment where, Saul shows up and Olvia tells Saul, okay, you take her, you get her out of here. Just run and get Robin somewhere safe because like she doesn't want to watch her daughter die. They know what the Buster call is going to happen, and they don't want, they don't want Robin to die. And at least if Robin is safe, then like something can continue from O'Hara. That seed can be there. And and she's just as they're running away, Robin doesn't want Saul to take her away from her mother. She just wants her mother to stay with her mother. She's like, I just want to stay with you. And Olvia's like, no, you have to go, you have to live, just I want you to live. And I would kind of say that Robin didn't really start necessarily living or enjoying her life until she met the Straw Hats. Yeah, maybe throughout all the time that she was, when she was on the run for all those years, and maybe once she joined like Baroque Works, maybe she was able to, live it up a little, but she didn't like trust Crocodile very much. But, she's leaving, and she, Olvia's words are kind of when Robin has her huge flashback, of course, when, she's on top of Ennis Lobby and everything. That's when she does, the I want to live. I don't want to die. I want to live to the Straw Hats. And of course, that's the impetus for them saving her. So, Olvia's legacy is Robin. Robin is still alive. Robin can read the poneglyphs. Robin is going to do that. And that will still help her be able to, solve the mystery that her mother wanted to solve. And, Robin is the legacy of O'Hara. Now we're going to talk about Granny Kokoro, who, she is Chimney's biological grandmother, and I'll technically talk about like Kokoro like probably on like the grandmother's day as well, and like her relationship with Chimney. But first we're going to talk about her relationship with Frankie and Iceberg, or Cuddy Flam and Iceberg. I'm just going to refer to him as Frankie. We know that Kokoro was the secretary for Tom, and Tom's workers back when they were when Tom was still alive and when they were building, the sea train, the Puffing Tom and everything. She was very supportive of him, and she was kind of the closest thing to a mother that, Frankie and Iceberg had, because, they were both orphans. Frankie's biological mother and father threw him off of a ship or abandoned him. And I don't remember if they just like threw him off the ship, or if they just like they had stopped at Water 7 and then they just like never let him get back on the ship and left him there. But Frankie, Frankie's relationship with Granny Kokoro is a little bit odd. Throughout the whole time that when he's growing up under Tom's supervision and everything, she's there. She's the closest thing to a mother that him and Iceberg have. And of course, on Father's Day, I'll talk about Tom for Frankie and Iceberg. But, Kokoro is their mother for all intents and purposes. And even now, Kokoro and Iceberg still have a very good relationship. They still get together and drink quite a bit. Frankie and Kokoro probably got together and would drink various points in time, because I think we see like in one of the scenes on Water 7, like, Kokoro's at the bar at Blue Nose Bar, and Frankie shows up and they drink together, and she knows who he is. So we have those moments. We have as much as Kokoro saves, she helps all the Straw Hats get to Ennis Lobby to be able to save Robin. She has She uses her mermaid ability to, save the Straw Hat, which is just funny. And I think that's the first time. Maybe that might have been the first time that like Frankie found out that Kokoro was a mermaid. That might have been the first time that that happened, where he's like, "Oh, I never realized you were a mermaid. I am now officially scarred for life, having you be the first mermaid that I ever have to see." Um, Although, of course, Oda did draw artwork of Kokoro when she was a young mermaid, and she was quite pretty, so it's kind of like the what happened. Um, that's what we have for that. Nothing about Brooke's parents. Maybe Brooke was one of the weird ones that had like a happy childhood. Like his parents were great. They encouraged his fencing and his music, and maybe he got his afro from his mom. Maybe Brooke got his afro from his mom and like his height from his dad. Um, like an odd combination. Like his dad's really tall, but he's bald, and like maybe his mom's kind of like average height, but she's got like this huge afro, and maybe that's where he got his afro from, and like his love of music and like his fencing and everything. Maybe that was where that came from. We don't know. We don't know anything about his parents. We're just gonna say that Brooke had a very happy childhood, just to say that one of the Straw Hats had a happy childhood. He had a happy childhood, and then everything happened with Laboon and Yorkie and the rest of the Rumbar pirates. But we're not talking about that. And then, of course, we don't know anything about Jinbei's parents. We don't even know what they look like. We don't know if Jinbei has any brothers or sisters, and maybe he would have mentioned this at this point in time, but he hasn't. We don't know if Brooke had any brothers and sisters. Even if he did, they would probably be, quite old as well by now. We don't even know. I don't even remember if we know what country Brooke came from. But we don't know anything about Jinbei's parents. Now we're going to move on to kind of the close friends of the Straw Hats. So we have Vivi's mother first, who is Nefertari. Titi was her name. We get like a slight flashback picture of her at one point, and she looks quite a bit like Vivi. So she's, just basically picture Vivi, basically, is what Nefertari Titi looked like. And then, of course, we get like another flashback. There's like one flashback where it's like, I think it's part of like the Strong World chapter type thing, where we see her there. We see like a photo of her at one point, and then like at one point in like Vivi's memory in the, I think, actual anime, or it was in like the Alabasta movie that they did. We get like another flashback of her that she's there. We know that she has passed away. We know that she was the queen of the country. She looked quite a bit like Vivi. We don't really know anything else about her. Now we're going to talk about Portcullis D. Rouge, who is, of course, the mother of Gold D. Ace, or Portcullis D. Ace. And, in regards to that, we, of course, have, we got to talk about the fact that, she held Ace in her stomach for 20 months. However much she was pregnant with him before Roger got executed, and then for so much after that to prevent the Marines from finding out that she was the one that was holding Roger's child. Because she saw all around her on this island. Because, it was reported that, like, the king of the pirates came here, and he was here for quite a while. And, Ace may not necessarily be, Roger's only son. I've heard the theory that like maybe Robin is, one of Dragon's children, or one of there's that theory too, that like Robin is Dragon's daughter, or like Robin is Robin is, Goldie Roger's daughter. We don't know if that's the case. I don't necessarily think so. I'll go over my slight theory on like who Robin's father is when I get to the Father's Day video. But Rouge held Ace in her stomach for so long to prevent it from being suspicious. She hid the fact that she was pregnant, because she didn't want Ace to be killed like the rest of the babies that were being born around her. I just like, there's a lot of kids on that island that probably unfortunately didn't get to grow up. And I'll talk about, Roger, of course, in the Father's Day video in regards to, Ace and everything. But, Ace, Rouge died, like, just after Ace was born. She was able to name him and, like, give him to Garp. And then she had to, and then she died. And the Will of D, she, the last time that we see her, she's smiling because she's holding Ace. And we had known that if Ace had been born a girl, his name would have been Portcullis D Anne. Ace, of course, despises his father, but he was told probably by Garp that, well, your mother, had your pregnancy for, so long, and that ever, and all of that, and Ace holds his mother. For all intents and purposes, if Rouge was still alive, Ace would probably be putting in the ability of trying to get her like her own frickin' castle for how much he adores his mother. For like as much as he knows about her, he would probably be trying to get her a frickin' mansion or a castle, or like a shrine dedicated to her, like she was a goddess or something. For as amazing as what she sounded. And he took her last name instead of his father's last name when he became a pirate, so he runs around as Portcullis D Ace instead of Goldie Ace. We really don't know too much else about Rouge's history. I don't even know if we know exactly how old she was when she died. We don't know like when her and Roger first met. Like, had they been to like that island before? Had the Roger pirates been to that island before where she was? Or had it just been like, oh, I have an inkling that I need to go to this island, or whatever. We don't know. Then we're gonna move on to, then we have Sabo's. Well, Sabo kind of had to Dawn as his mother as well. Maybe Makino a tiny bit. I would also kind of put Makino as a little bit of also kind of like the older sister figure, but I would kind of put her more in the mother figure. We have Didit, who is Sabo's biological mother. She is also the adopted mother of Sterling, and this is our first instance of a bad mother in One Piece. Oh God. She basically has the same mentality of what her husband does, of our child is supposed to get us higher ranking in higher ranked and everything. And she doesn't seem to care about Sabo. She prefers Stelly, blah 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 blah. We really don't know too much about her. We know that she didn't really seem to care when Sabo died. She was probably more worried about like the stain that would leave on their family. In regards to that, we don't even know if she's still alive. I would assume that she's probably still alive. We know that Stelly is now king. He married isn't Annette Sally, whatever her name was. He married her, so he's king and everything. But we don't, and Outlook helped kill the king, but we don't know. Didit may have been honored as well, or maybe Outlook didn't care. I don't know. Next parent that we're kind of introduced to in the series, or the next mother. Now I'm just going to kind of go in order, kind of based on like the story arcs. And if I skip a parent, then I'm sorry. I was trying to get as many of them as I could in regards to ones that are kind of either major impact on like the story themselves, or ones that were a very crucial part in like a flashback or something. So the first one that we have, there's not really too many other parents that we're introduced to in the East Blue that aren't related to the Straw Hats. Drum Island and the Alabasta arc, we really don't have too many others that are introduced. We get like a vague reference to like Koza's mother, and that like she's dead, but we don't really know anything else about her. And then the kind of the next mother that we are introduced to is in the flashback for Skypiea, when we get the whole flashback between between Montblanc Nolan and Calgaro, when we get that whole flashback. And the mother that we are introduced to is Herb, who is Calgaro's wife and the mother of Moose. Calgara is, of course, the big main warrior for the Shandians, or Shandians, Shandorians, whichever one you want to refer to it as. He is, of course, their main warrior. Herb is his wife, and they have their daughter, Moose. Moose is supposed to be, and it's not Moose like the, it's Moose as in like the dessert type of a moose. So we have that. She is also, Moose is supposed to be sacrificed to, the snake god or whatever, the 400 years ago, to try to, try to appease these gods that are giving them the sickness and everything. And, Herb does not want her daughter to be sacrificed because she loves her daughter, but the daughter is willing to do it. And of course, Nolan shows up and slices off the head of the God, and then, explains it. No, 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 I can heal all of you. It's okay. And he does all of that. And, Moose doesn't die, thankfully. And then Moose marries several years later. At one point, the knock-up stream happens, and I don't know if she's married before or after the knock-up stream happens, but we are, of course, introduced to her husband, or, Herb's son-in-law is Seto. Not Kaiba. He's not Seto Kaiba. He's just Seto. He was one of the boys that was in the village, in the Shandorian village and everything, and he idolized Kalgara. And of course, Moose and Seto's line is what leads to, of course, Wiper in the current Skypiea, and the current in the Skypiea arc. The current generation. We don't know too much else about her. That's basically what we know. She was still alive when they got the knock-up stream and everything. Not Coke, and then we move on to there's not really any parents we're introduced to in like Long Ring Longland. There's the old man who has his grandkids, so technically he has kids, but we don't really know anything about him, and I'll talk about him on Grandparents' Day. And then we have Water 7. Kokoro, Granny Kokoro is like the closest thing to a mother that we get introduced to there. And then we have, Ennis Lobby. This is where we learn, of course, about Olvia from Robin's flashback. We don't really know anything else about the other mothers in regards to like the rest of the CP9 agents, I don't think. Although I think it's Kumadori that keeps claiming that his mother's dead, even though she's not. And then we have, there's not really any mothers in Thriller Bark. Not really. Then we have, after Thriller Bark, then we have, of course, the Saba Odi arc, or the Saba Odi section, and then, of course, the Summit War arc. There's not really any mothers that we're introduced to in Saba Odi. We meet Shaki, but as far as we're aware, her and Rayleigh don't have any children. But so she's there, but they don't have any children as far as we're aware. But we're introduced to Kami, but there's not that. Even in regards to Kami, I even went back to double check to make sure that the mermaid dectuplets or octuplets or quintuplets or whatever there are that's with her. I even went back to double check to make sure those are not hers. They are her friends. They're not like her friends' kids. They're just 5 little mermaids that are her friends. And I was just I just double check that just to make sure, because I'm like, okay, I just want to make sure that they're not her kids. Not that I don't mind talking about Kami. I just wanted to make sure if I had to. And I was like, I think that we would have been particularly informed if Kami had gotten married or had kids. I think some people like her and Hachan, but I don't know exactly where that falls. I don't know where I fall on that one. But then we get to, we get the whole Summit War arc. We're not really introduced. This is kind of more where we find about, Ace's backstory and his mother. And then, of course, we get, Luffy's whole flashback and Amazon Lily, after the Summit War and everything happens with Ace. And that's where we learn about Dodon and where we learn about Sabo and his mother. And then we get to Punk Hazard. We know that all of the kids want to go back to their parents. We do see some of the parents complaining to, the G5 guys about, it's like, well, where are our children? We want our children back. And we get some references to Belle-mere in this one, because we have where, Nami and Usopp, of course, refuse to leave the children because they don't want the children to, be in pain, and they can't leave it when children are crying. And, so we have those moments, and then we have the moment where, Tashigi asks Nami to let her take the children with them because she will make sure that the children are okay. And, of course, Nami says that that's okay, and I can see, I don't remember if it's Usopp that asked her or if it's someone else that she asks about that, and Nami just goes, I guess because of, my mom, I just have kind of a weak spot for, female Marines that want to take care of children. So, Toshigi wants to get all those kids back to back to their moms, of course, to their parents and everything. After Vegapunk hopefully takes care of them, we'll see what happens with Vegapunk. Um, I hope he can get all the kids back to their parents after he fixes the crap that Caesar put them through. Um, and then, of course, the next mother that we are introduced to is, of course, we have the Fishman Island arc, which is where we are introduced to Orohime, who is, of course, the queen, former late queen, unfortunately. She had Fukaboshi, Ryuboshi, Mamboshi, and Shirahoshi, are, of course, all of her children, with Neptune. She was the queen. She wanted to get it that, the merfolk and the fishmen and everything could live on land in the sun with humans and everything, and that was her dream, and she very much instilled that same dream in her children, and she very much loved her children. I'm still trying to figure out how the giant frickin' merman and small little mermaid have a kid. I don't know. Then again, fish lay eggs, so maybe it's, she laid eggs, and those are, she can lay one egg at a time, maybe, and then, fish, Neptune, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. That does not look safe. But she, and like, I hope she didn't have to give birth to Shirahoshi. I mean, like, at least the three boys kind of look like they would at least be an okay size for her to birth. But Shirahoshi does not, considering how big Shirahoshi is, even as a baby compared to her mother. And that's just one of those moments where it's like, I kind of want to know how that works, but I don't, because reasons. And so we have that, and everything, and Orohime adored her children. She adored all three of her sons and her daughter. And, we have, she wants to have it that her children can get to live in the sun. And even to the point where at one point she gets drunk and she gets on the, like the intercom that allows her to apparently address all of Fishman Island, which I'm like, you should have that under better lock and key. Because if the drunk queen can find it, then maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe have that under better lock and key. But she, she's drunk and she's talking and things like, I just wanted to help all of you, and I just wanted to do it so we could all be together, and so everybody could be equal and everything. Her drunk rant. And then, of course, we deal with, this is, everything happens with, Fisher Tiger and Jinbei, and she, and then, Milzigard shows up, and she protects him from the fishmen that were his former slaves. And then, of course, her compassion, of course, we know ends up helping Milzigard change, slowly makes him better. We don't really know too much else about what happened with that. We know that, he took her up to Marie-Joie, and that that him and the rest of the Celestial Dragons, I don't know if she interacted with the Gorosei themselves, but maybe she did. And she, they got the paper that says, if you can get enough people to sign, get their signatures and everything, then, this will work, and we'll take you up to the surface. And, we'll help with getting, maybe not necessarily Fishman Island itself to move to the surface, but, move the people from Fishman Island to the surface. And, so we have all of that. And then, of course, we have several years where they're gathering up the signatures, and, the princes and the princess are, of course, very supportive of their mother. And then, of course, we have it where it's, it's like we almost have everything they need. And then, of course, we have where Hody shows up, and he, assassinates the queen. And, she, even in her dying moments, it's not that she was necessarily a complete, it's like, some people just say, Orohime was weak because she didn't want to fight back against against the people that were, causing her problems. She didn't want her children to seek revenge against, the person that killed her. Admittedly, they thought it was a human that killed her right off the bat, not Hody Jones. That's not revealed until, of course, much later on, in the Fishman Island arc. But, I look at it like Orohime's strength came from her heart. her, she loved her children so much, she loved her people so much and her kingdom so much that she wanted to just, she wanted it to be that her children and all the children of, Fishman Island, whether they be merfolk or whether they be, kids from the Fishman district, she wanted them to be able to live in the sun and not be afraid and not have to worry about becoming slaves. And, that's what she wanted. And, her, that in and of itself shows how strong of a heart she had. I mean, like, it's like, I'll talk about Big Mom, but it's like, if we gave, like, Otohime Big Mom's devil fruit, Otohime may have had a weak body, but she had a very, very strong heart and a very, very strong soul. And she probably would have been quite good with the soul fruit as well. We'll get to Big Mom. We'll get to Big Mom. But Otohime even tried to make sure that her children didn't try to go after or didn't hold a grudge against the person that killed her. And Shirahoshi is very much the one that takes that to heart. I mean, the three boys do too, and they end up helping, of course, the Straw Hats, and Shirahoshi, of course, didn't get to go to her mother's funeral, of course, in the first place, unfortunately, but she finally, Luffy took her to go to the gravesite, so so Shirahoshi gets the ability to, say goodbye to her mother, because Vanderdecken is a jerk, and even a bigger pervert than Sanji, I would say, considering that he was trying to get his hands on a child. But Shirahoshi seems to very much have taken what her mother wanted to heart, and the boys seem to have too. And of course, Shirahoshi wants to, of course, help her mother's dream come true. That's why they go to Reverie, and when Milzigard shows up, he whacks Charlos, and of course protect Shirahoshi because he still owes a debt to. He owes a debt to Otohime, not just for saving his life, but for also kind of like saving his soul. And so there's that too. That's part of Otohime's legacy. Now we get to the five mothers that are like introduced in the Dressrosa arc. Oh god. So technically, the first mother that we are introduced to in the Dressrosa arc is Giola, or Jola, whichever one you refer to as. She is, of course, a member of the Don Quixote pirates, Don Quixote family. She is the adopted mother of Dellinger, or Derringer, whichever one you want to call him. He is the half fishman, half fighting fishman, half human, that is part of the crew, and Giola raises him from a baby when they adopt him, and she very much raises him to be very, very effeminate. And I don't remember if it's necessary that Dellinger thinks that he's a girl, or if he's just very feminine in and of himself because of the way that Giola raised him, and he just, uses that because he always wears heels. Hey, the kid can walk in heels better than I can, and I'll give him credit for that. I don't want to walk in heels. Heels scare me. But so she raised him, but Giola also seemed to be a bit of kind of a surrogate mother to a degree to Law and to Baby Five and to Buffalo, because they were the other three kids that were there at the time. And Law didn't necessarily seem to enjoy that, and I don't necessarily blame him, because Giola does seem to be a bit much. But she did seem to at least care for them to a degree. And I even think, she kind of got over, Law leaving and everything, but she still maybe seemed to care about like Baby Five and Buffalo a bit as well, which is good. And, so we get that. And then, of course, we're introduced to Scarlet, who is, of course, Rebecca's mother. First, we're introduced to her via Rebecca in regards to, Rebecca thinking that Scarlet was her only parent. And, of course, Scarlet and Rebecca had a wonderful relationship. And Rebecca adored her mother. And Scarlet adored Rebecca. And technically, we see, like, Rebecca, or Scarlet and Viola's mother in the background. Who's, of course, Riku's wife. But she's not really prevalent in the story too much. She's like there in the flashbacks, but not too much else. But we have it where, Rebecca, Scarlett, of course, was Rebecca's mother, of course. I'll talk about Kyros, of course. But Scarlett, when everything happened with, when the Doflamingo family attacked, when Doflamingo attacked, Doflamingo family, Don Quixote family, whatever, when he attacked, Kyros went to go into town, and of course he unfortunately gets turned into a toy at whatever point in time. But Rebecca and Scarlett, had ended up going to, wait in the flower fields, and Scarlett and Rebecca was very, very hungry, so Scarlett went to go and get her food, and unfortunately this is when, Scarlett gets shot, and of course, the steadfast tin soldier, of course, is the one that finds her, and of course he knows exactly who she is, but she does not recognize him, unfortunately, because she forgot, because of sugar. Oh god, with that. But so he's rushing her back and everything, and of course, Scarlett, dies, unfortunately, and I do like the fact that when the final battle happens between, like, Kyros and Robin and Rebecca against Diamante, that he whacks his head on Scarlett's grave. I like that. That's good. I'm like, I am perfectly fine with this. So we have that happens. But Scarlett seemed to be a very good mother to Rebecca. She was very kind to her and very sweet and adored her daughter. And of course, we know that, Kyros and Scarlett did not have a very good relationship in the beginning. But then, of course, she gave up her princess title and faked her own death in order to go with him, which of course gave them Rebecca. And, Scarlett was a pacifist to a degree, and Rebecca seemed to kind of take that in and of herself when, of course, she's like, well, Mama always said it was wrong to attack people and wrong to hurt people, when, Kyros as the tin soldier is training her. And I don't blame her for that. Being a pacifist isn't necessarily a bad thing, but in the world that she was in, it made sense for her to be able to defend herself. And she still doesn't like to hurt people. And of course, we see that to a degree throughout the Colosseum games and everything through the tournament, that she doesn't want to attack people unless she has to. And that was very, very odd for the fact that she actually attacked someone as opposed to just, defending and dodged. And then the next one that we are kind of introduced to is, I don't remember if it goes Baby Five's mom, Law's mom, and then Doflamingo's mom, but we're just going to do Baby Five's mom first because I kind of mentioned her a little bit already. Baby Five had a horrible mother. Her mother abandoned her when she was a baby, when she was, I don't know exactly what age, but, whatever age Baby Five was. And her mother had abandoned her and told her that you're useless and I don't ever want to see you again, which of course leads into, Baby Five's own issues with, she always has to be useful to someone. She's willing to do anything to try to, make someone happy. Even, in the course of, getting rid of her own life and everything. She's better now. She has, Sai and his family. She's better. She's in a better place now with them. Hopefully Sai can help her get over some of that. Maybe we'll see Baby Five again when, the Straw Hat Grand Fleet shows up at whatever point in time, to deal with either with the Marines in the final battle or, Blackbeard in the final battle. Maybe Baby Five will be there too. And then, of course, we have Law's mother. We don't actually get an exact name for Law's mother or his father. We know that, because his full name is, of course, Trafalgar D. Water Law. And I think that I don't remember if Water came from his mother or his father, but I think the Water came from his mother, and then, the D came from his father. And, of course, Law's mother was, of course, in Flevence. She was the mother to, of course, Law and his sister, Lami. Unfortunately, both of Law's parents and Lami were unfortunately all died in the Flevence incident with, the White Town and the Amber Lead and, oh God, and everything. And, I can kind of see why maybe Law didn't particularly want to end up having a good relationship with, Giola, but, she was there. She did seem to care about the kids. I'll give Giola that. And then, of course, we have Homing's wife, Doflamingo, and Rochinate's mother. We learn a little bit about her. We don't ever actually learn her name, but we apparently can tell that she seemed to at least been okay with her husband's idea of, well, why don't we leave Marie Joie and we can go and actually, give up our status as celestial dragons and we can go and be, live, the lower realm, live there. And she seemed to be okay with that. So she seemed to at least have some of her husband's ideals in the fact of, teaching their sons that, you're a celestial dragon. That doesn't mean that you're better than everybody else. That, you are human type of a thing. And Roshinante and Doflamingo adored their mother. They adored their mother so, so much. And of course, we have, the moments where, of course, unfortunately, after they get set up in that world, and the lower realm, unfortunately, then all the people in the village attack because they don't have the protection of the celestial dragons anymore and the marines, and they attack them. And homing might have been a better idea to move to a place where the marines can protect you. Might be a better idea to do that. But unfortunately, they burn the house where they were living. They, all of them get, she gets very, very sick, unfortunately, and Roshinate and Doflamingo, of course, try to, scrounge food so she can eat, and they try to get her money, and I would assume she probably dies from, like, something that's rather simply treated. It's just that none of the doctors would treat her, because of, her, former celestial dragon status. And she unfortunately, she probably had like something along the lines of, like, I don't remember if they said, but it was like probably like tuberculosis or something like that. It was like, could have been treated, but unfortunately, given all the horrible conditions that they were in, unfortunately, it didn't get treated. And she unfortunately dies, which is, one of the reasons why Doflamingo hates their father, because, what he did led to their mother's death. And as I said, Doflamingo and Roshinate adored their mother, and they were both heartbroken when she died. And I can kind of see where that would definitely be something that would, of course, also make, Doflamingo kind of snap. Because that combined with, what happened with, what he made, what Treble kind of convinced him to do to his own father and everything for those certain circumstances. As some of you may have noticed, I accidentally missed one of the mothers that we are introduced to in Dressrosa. While, unlike, Doflamingo's mother or Scarlet, she is not as impactful on the arc. She is still very impactful in the fact that, as far as I am aware, she is the first mother that we have seen in the series that has actually lost a child. Now, if I am wrong about this, I apologize. I may have just missed it and just not caught the fact that, no, there's other mothers in the series that have lost a child. I mean, obviously, we have had children that have died in the series, but we don't necessarily get a huge glimpse into the parent who loses a child. We almost had that with her back on Skypiea in this flashback with the Shandians, with her having to watch, Moose be sacrificed. Thankfully, that didn't happen. But in this case, I am, of course, referring to Rushin, or Lucian, Rushin, who is Senor Pink's wife. We, of course, learn about her in the flashback that we get with Senor Pink that explains why he's, of course, dressed like a baby. And we see what happens. We know that they were... If you hear jingling in the background, it's because of the dog. Senor Pink met Rushin several years before they took over Dressrosa, when they were still just, the Doflamingo pirates, or the Don Quixote pirates, before Doflamingo was a warlord. They met and they fell in love, and he lied to her about the fact that he was a pirate because she didn't like pirates. And of course, they had their son, Gimlet. And Senor Pink adored Gimlet, so did Rushin. And then unfortunately, we of course have the problem where, Gimlet got very sick, and unfortunately he died. And Rushin had tried to get a hold of Senor Pink at the bank that he supposedly worked at, but he wasn't there, and they said that he'd never worked there. And that's when she found out that he'd been lying to her the entire time that they were married, and the entire time that she'd known him. And of course, this results in her finding out that he's a pirate, and she, of course, is not happy about this. She's not happy about the fact that Rainey actually just laid down at the foot of my chair where I am recording this so I can edit it into the video. We, of course, know that, Rushin was not happy about the fact that Senor Pink had been lying to her the entire time, and that he hadn't been there when their child was sick. I always had the theory in my head that maybe Doflamingo found out about Rushin and Gimlet, and, because Senor Pink, had something outside of the family that was, important to him, that maybe Doflamingo got angry about that and secretly did something that resulted in Gimlet dying. But I really don't know exactly if that would be all the way up, Doflamingo's alley, because Senor Pink was a very loyal member of his crew, but he had something outside the crew, so I don't know exactly what's going on with that. And also, we know that he had the habit of killing Baby Five's fiancés, so we don't know exactly if maybe that was something that Doflamingo had a hand in. But Gimlet dies. Rushin is extremely angry about this. She slaps, Senor Pink, and then she unfortunately ends up getting into an accident where she is then in a vegetative state. And, the doctor tells Senor Pink that she probably will never be able to express any type of emotion again. And this is when Senor Pink starts, dressing up like a baby. He puts on the baby bonnet and he goes and visits her. And he's, like, you said that Gimlet looked like me. Maybe, does this look like him? Please smile. Please just smile one more time, because he always loved her smile. And, she does smile in kind of her comatose state type of thing. And she, that results in why Senor Pink then, his outfit becomes more and more babyish. He has the bonnet, he has the pacifier, he has kind of the baby shirts, he has the diaper type thing, and why he gets, why he goes down that road. Now, I don't know that loss of losing a child. I know that I have had family members that have had that loss. Those that have had stillborns. Those that have lost children. My grandma, on my mom's side, has dealt with that 3 times. And it's... it's not an easy thing to have any parent go through, regardless of whether it's a mother losing their child or the father losing the child. That's not an easy thing to deal with. And I think that that's something that is a little bit overlooked a little bit in One Piece, in the fact that, in that world, there are a lot of places where there's not a lot of doctors, unfortunately. And there is probably, in some cases, a high infant mortality rate. And, I mentioned this with Rouge, that there were a lot of women who, unfortunately, didn't get to have their children because they were suspect of the child could belong to Roger. And were never 100% told what happens to those children, or whether or not the children, the parents could try to prove that, no, the child can't be Roger's. Like, is that something that they would be able to prove? And, if so, how many of them were able to prove it? How many children were, made to disappear in, in regards to, the greater good for, what the Celestial Dragons wanted, what the Gorosei wanted, what Im wanted, what the world, what the Navy wanted at the time. And Sengoku wasn't the fleet admiral at that point, but Kong was. But, I don't know how much Kong would have had a say in exactly what was carried out for that. I don't think a lot of the higher-ups approved of it, and some of the lower-ranked Marines may not have 100% known what was going on, but that is, unfortunately, a reality that happened to a lot of those women. And Rushin is kind of one of the other ones that we see that happens to, unfortunately. She doesn't lose it because of the government, doesn't lose her child because of the government, but she loses it to sickness, which is unfortunately something that happens in this world a lot as well. And that's, I had forgotten in my notes when I was making this. I'd skipped over Rushin, and I was very annoyed about that when I realized it, and so that's why this is here. So back to the rest of the video. Some of the other ones are a little more happy than this, so I'm sorry if that kind of brought anybody down. But I would, that's not a pain that can 100% be described. So back to the rest of the video. A wife who loses her husband is called a widow. A husband who loses a wife is called a widower. A child who loses his parents is called an orphan. There is no word for a parent who loses a child. That's how awful the loss is. Next mother that we are kind of introduced to in the story, I think it goes in this order. We are introduced to Baking. I don't remember if we're introduced to her like between Pughazard and Dressrosa, or if it's between like Dressrosa and Zoe. We're introduced to Baking, who is of course Edward Weevil's mother, and she claims to have been like Whitebeard's lover, years ago, supposedly on Rox's crew, because they were on the same crew, so we think it was Rox's crew. And she was maybe there, and Shockey was supposedly on that crew as well. But like they were there and everything. I was like, if one person would be able to confirm that like Weevil is Whitebeard's son, it would probably be Shockey, because she could either be like, well, Whitebeard and Baking, they did have some fun together, or no, he never looked at her because she was just as ugly then as she is now. But we're introduced to her a little bit. She's trying to get her son. She encouraged him to become the Shishibukai, the warlord of the sea, and to be able to use him to try to get to Whitebeard's treasure and find Sphinx Island and get Marco and everything. And Weevil seems to just like obey whatever his mother tells him to do. Weevil, of course, doesn't seem to have a whole lot of brain cells, but he is very much a mama's boy, and he's very strong, which is not the best combination if his mother is Baking. And of course, I think her name translated to like a bill or a fine or something like that. I don't remember. Next kind of minor mother that we see is on Zoe. We are introduced to Peckham's mother. We're also introduced to Peckham's father, and this is kind of where we get the explanation of, well, just because your father is one thing and your mother is one thing, that doesn't mean that you're going to be the same thing. You could be something different, because his father looks like a monkey and his mother looks like a bear, and then Peckham's is a lion. So the mink genetics seem to be like the way that the fishmen and the merfolk genetics are, which is fine. It just makes things move around a bit. I don't mind it. We see Peckham's mother. Don't get a name for her. She wants her son safe and everything. We don't know if if Peckham's is dead. We don't know if like his mother's ever gonna find out. Or it might have been like when everything was happening in Totland, when Peckham's went, Sulong and the other, and the rest of the Big Mom pirates attack him and everything, that, maybe his mother woke up that night like in a cold sweat going, oh, my baby. We don't know. We don't know if that news would ever be able to get back to Zoe, whatever happened to Peckham's. And then, of course, speaking of the Big Mom pirates, now I'm going to talk about Big Mom. Okay. So we are technically vaguely introduced to Big Mom way back at in the post-Ennis Lobby arc, because Garp says, well, there's for Yonko and everything, and we don't specifically get what Big Mom's name is. I don't think we ever specifically get her name until like I think what happened in like Fishman Island, I think. But we're introduced to her in Fishman Island when she when she doesn't get her candy because Luffy ate it all. Yeah. Big Mom, of course, has 85 children, has given birth to them over the past 50 years, I think. Because I think she's been giving birth at least every year since she was, I think, 18, and she is and she all the way up until she was 60, and she's like 68 now. And her youngest child is, well, her oldest child is of course Perospero, and her youngest child is, I think it's Charlotte Anana. I know that she's the youngest one. I like her. She carries a bunny. I also just think that she's adorable. She also likes knives. Yeah. But Lin Lin, from everything that we've seen with Lin Lin, she seemed to be a very erratic mother. We know that her first several, like, Perospero, and I think it was Compote was the daughter, and then, Katakuri, Daifuku, and Oven, and, like, some of the other, like, the first groups that were all born while she was still on Rox's crew, all of them were raised on the island that would eventually become Whole Cake Island, and they were kind of just left to their own devices. I mean, we know that Big Mom's been a pirate for a long time, and she probably kind of maybe ruled over that island that would become Whole Cake. They were probably also kind of raised by Streusen to a degree, but they were all kind of more just there for each other. Most of the kids do kind of seem to love their mother, but to a degree, like whenever she was around, and like for like the once once Rox's crew split up and she came back and was around her children a lot more, maybe she was a bit more affectionate to them at times. We know that she has, we just found out about this in this was going to go up on Mother's Day, so I don't know if there's going to be a chapter that comes out just before this one goes out, or if it's going to be like we're going to learn something new about Lin Lin in this next chapter. But we know that we learned about her mother mode in the last chapter with Tama, and that Prometheus is in the back. She gets this way sometimes with children that are like under 10 years old, and Lin Lin's just like, oh, Tama, it's so nice to see you again. Are you okay? Why are you in this dangerous place? Tama, well, I'm here helping, but they the village where I lived were near there, where everybody was so nice and they gave you food. Yeah, no, Kaido burned it down. And then, how dare you? Like, attacks. That attacks page 1. There are standards. We'll see what happens with that. As others have said, she may, continue to try to protect Tama, which if she protects Tama and the Koma Inu and kind of like ignores Nami and Usopp on the back, then that would be kind of good, and they can get to the hall and then Tama can give her order. Or, Lin Lin may just get very distractive and, punch page 1 again, or punch ulti or something. We don't know. We'll find out. I hope that she doesn't hurt Tama. You don't want Lin Lin to hurt Tama. Tama is nice. But, Lin Lin, for her younger children, and we know that this is not an all-time thing, because she made that comment about, like, Pudding's eye being creepy when Pudding was a kid, and she was definitely under 10 years old when that happened. We know that Lin Lin, when she's in her hunger pang mode, she doesn't care if one of her children gets in her way. She will still attack one of her children. We see this with Charlotte Moscate, whatever, the guy that had, like, the ice cream cone thing on his back that, she ripped out his soul and everything with her devil fruit. And, she didn't seem to care. And we don't know if she ever found out that she did that or not after she got her hunger pain taken care of by Jinbei. And of course, she was very abusive to Chiffon, because Chiffon looked like Lola. And, she was very angry at Lola because Lola left because she didn't want to marry Loki. Lola left. And then, of course, because Chiffon and Lola look so much alike, Big Mom was, of course, very abusive to Chiffon whenever she shows up. Whenever she's around, and she gets very, very angry at Chiffon for that, and blames her for that because she tried to dress Chiffon up like Lola and pass her off as Lola, but that didn't work because Loki didn't like that. And so, Big Mom has that problem with Chiffon. And, she was kind of abusive to Pudding when she was a kid. We know that, the way that she treats her husbands are basically, oh, well, you gave me a kid, and the kid's healthy, and now I don't need you anymore, so bye. We see that with Pound when, Chiffon and Lola are born. We see that with Pound, unfortunately, and he's just kicked out as soon as, the kids are healthy and fine. She's like, I don't need you anymore. All of the Charlotte children, she basically instills in them that, whoever your father is doesn't matter. Your father isn't family. I'm your family, and your siblings are family. Streusen's kind of family too, because he helped me. But I'm your family, and your brothers and sisters are your family. Other than that, it does not matter. And, your fathers don't matter. None of that matters, because Cracker didn't even seem to have any type of affection for, Pound. I don't remember. I think Brule was in the forest too, and they interacted with Pound, and she's just like, "Oh, stepfather. I mean, Pound." You know, there's not really any affection there. You know, and we don't know how many of the other fathers are on the island anymore. Maybe they're all gone. Maybe one of them was Kaido. We don't know. There's the whole theory, of course, that like Yamato is Kaido and Big Mom's child, and I mean, I can kind of see where that would come into play. The way that Oda tends to draw female characters to a degree, some of them can be very similar looking. Some people point out that like Yamato's face structure is very similar to like Pudding's face structure, and that so there's maybe that there, and there's that the theory, and like I'm like I can go either way on the theory of that like Yamato is Lin Lin and Kaido's daughter, that like we know the debt that Kaido owed her was the fact that she gave him the fish fruit, but like maybe it had ended up being like maybe Katakuri, there's the whole the Katakuri, Daifuku, and Oben are also Kaido's children, and that she had them while they were on Rox's crew, and then like maybe none of them had like what Kaido wanted in a kid, so he's like, yeah, Lin, you can keep them, and then like maybe years later, don't remember if they state, Yamato's about 28, because she's 20 when everything happens with Odin, and then she's 8 when everything happens with Odin, because her and Momonosuke are the same age. But Lin, maybe it was years later, maybe it's like maybe years later, Kaido went to Lin at some point and he's like, hey, Lin, I kind of need an heir, and that Katakuri kid with the teeth that we had, he's pretty dang strong on your crew. So if we have another kid, I'm gonna take it with me and take it back to wherever he was based at the time. I guess I don't know if he was in Wano yet, but wherever I'm, take that back with myself to wherever, and have that, he'll be with me, or they'll be with me. And Lin may have been like, Mama, sure. And then they blah 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 blah. 9 months later, Yamato, and then Yamato's healthy, and then Kaido takes her, and then like maybe but I don't remember exactly which Lin children were 28 years old. I will double check that because I have like a list of all the Charlotte children. I will double check to see like what Charlotte children would have been born around the same time that like Yamato was born. That would be like in that 28 range. And if so, I will put them here. And if so, it could have been like, like she had them and then she like had Yamato, or, I don't know. It is possible to be pregnant with more than one kid at the same time that are not twins. That from 2 different fathers. It is possible. And if anyone in One Piece would have the body to be able to pull that off, it would be Lin. So, it's basically she has a baby, however many weeks later, once her menstrual cycle starts up again, she's pregnant again, and blah, 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 over and over and over again. Plus she has so many, the multiple births and everything, but I'll just double check that. It could have been she was pregnant with 2 at the same time, and then, Yamato came out and had horns, and Kaido's like, that one's mine, bye. The other father. I'll leave now. I don't remember exactly who that is. But of course, we also know that several of the children that, that's because we know that, Praline is married to Aladdin, and she doesn't care about her family anymore. She doesn't care about Lin. She doesn't care if they kill her mother. Same thing with Chiffon. Her family is with Capone, and of course Pez. And of course we have Capone Pez, who is of course, Chiffon's son with Capone, as I just said. She adores him. She loves him. She is a very good mother to Pez. Capone is a very good father to Pez. I'll talk about Capone on Father's Day. Beige on Father's Day, but she loves her baby, and she's very, very happy with him and everything, and so we have that. So that's at least a good relationship there. But Praline, Chiffon and Praline both chose their husband's crews over their mother's crew, over their own family, and Pudding kind of seemed to do a little bit of that with Sanji, because she wanted to help Sanji, and then of course we have Lola left, you know, we don't know how many of the other Charlotte children are married. It could just be that, like, we know that Pudding says at one point when we first meet Pudding and she's explaining, oh, there's like 85 of us in the fam, 85 of his children, and a bunch of the older ones are already married and they have kids of their own. So there's quite a few other. So Aladdin and Capone are not the only in-laws that Lin has. It's also, well, technically Gaudi is now her son-in-law as well, because, you know, Lola married him, and, you know, the cover story and everything. And, you know, so Lola's with that crew now and everything. So maybe the fire tank and the rolling pirates will come together as like the fire rolling tank pirates or whatever. I don't know. Maybe that'll happen. But, you know, a lot of the other ones are married from what Pudding said, but we don't ever see them. So, you know, there's other in-laws and there might be other grandkids. It's just that the other in-laws may not necessarily come from other pirate crews. Or at the very least, those pirate crews may be loyal enough to Lin that they're not willing to turn their backs on her. And then, of course, we kind of get the mother figure for Lin, which is, of course, Mother Carmel. Caramel, whichever one you want to put it. We do see Lin's biological parents at one point in the flashback when they're dropping her off on Elbath. And, you know, that's all that we see of them. They leave. And then we have, you know, Lin ends up at the orphanage, the sheep's house, where, you know, Mother Carmel is, and she's basically kind of the mother figure to Lin and the sheep's house children, or the lamb's house children, whichever one you want to call it. Sheep, lamb, same difference. And of course, she gets off the whole, you know, the air of being a wonderful mother. You know, she set up the sheep's house, you know, so many years ago when she was still young, and she was quite pretty when she was young. But then, of course, you know, we know that she's not actually a nice person. She seems very nice to all of them, and, you know, gives off her dream of, you know, a world where everyone can live together and be at peace, and everyone is everyone is equal, no matter what their race or their whatever. And, you know, and that's the air that she gives off. That's, you know, the air that she gives to the giants that allows her to have her, you know, house there, but she's actually, you know, the mountain witch who, you know, is part of the child trade underground, which is not a good thing. And of course, so she kind of instilled that dream in Lin. Unfortunately, that dream got twisted quite a bit. Although it would be a very interesting scenario had, you know, the birthday incident not happened, and, you know, Carmel was able to get Lin off to the Marines, you know, the CP9 or the CP0, you know, get her off to them and everything, and then maybe Lin would have become a Marine. She may not have had all of her children, but, you know, deviation there. Maybe she would have still had some children. Maybe she would have gone after Garp and Sengoku. Maybe not. Maybe she would have, I don't know. But so we see them, you know, the whole birthday incident happens, unfortunately, with the cake and everybody going away. And of course, Lin of course has her emotional break when they smash the photo, the only photo she has left of Mother Caramel, which, because Lin doesn't know that Mother Caramel was going to sell her, basically, she still has, of course, that very soft spot, that very high regard for Mother Caramel in her heart. Unfortunately, Lin twisted the fake dream. Good idea and concept for the dream that Mother Caramel had and for what Lin wanted to do, but unfortunately that got twisted. Of course, part of Lin's dream is to have it that, like, her and all of her children of all these different races can all sit around this table together and be at eye level with each other, which, I mean, is a good idea. I mean, it's a good dream. It's just that, unfortunately, you know, having every single one of your family be kind of gigantified is not a good idea, like you. So we have that. We, of course, have all of her various children that are all, you know, the hybrid ones and everything. And, oh, God, that's a lot of fathers. It was like 85 children, and then I don't remember exactly. It was like either like 42 or 45 different husbands that she's had. You know, Pound is one of them, and, you know, we don't know how many of the other ones there were. You know, maybe some of them were from Rox's crew, maybe some of them were just other random ones that she met along the way. Some of them may have just been one-night stands, we don't know. And then kind of the last mother that we have been introduced to in the series so far is Kozuki Toki, or Amasuki Toki, who is, of course, the wife of Odin and the mother of Momonosuke and Hiyori. And she, of course, we kind of find out a little bit about her when, Kinemon is explaining that, oh, well, we time traveled here from the past. We time traveled 20 years into the future from the past because Lady Toki had the ability to, you know, has the power of the time fruit, and she could send us into the future. And she sent him and Momo and Raizo and the, traitor Kanjuro, even though they didn't know that at the time, and Okiku into the future. And then, of course, Hiyori went with Kawamatsu. And, and then, Toki did her whole, I'm going to give my speech about the prophecy and then I'm going to leave. We don't know if she, popped out of existence again or if she died. We don't know. But we know that she met Odin, and then, of course, they had Momonosuke, and then they had Hiyori while they were on Whitebeard's crew. And then, of course, they joined, Roger's crew for the time being. And she seemed to be a very, very good mother to Momonosuke and Hiyori, and very loving and, very encouraging of them and everything. She also seemed to be a very good, because, Odin was the daimyo of Kuri at the time. And of course, she was very, very good at trying to rally the people in regards to Odin's doing something very, very important. And he will be back type thing. And so she has those moments that she has, and the Scabbards seem to adore her from the bit that we've seen. And of course, she sends them into the future. She kind of knew what was going to happen, or she could kind of predict a little bit what was going to happen in regards to, Odin's going to die, and I have to send Momonosuke into the future with several of the Scabbards, and then Hiyori has to stay here as kind of a backup plan in case those in the future fail. And they're kind of both backup plans for each other. And Hiyori seems to have, well, of course, Hiyori Komurasagi, of course, ends up growing up to be extremely beautiful, just like her mother was. Her mother was very, very beautiful, and Hiyori has inherited that beauty both inside and out. Because Hiyori kind of acts, I wouldn't say that Hiyori would be kind of like the mother to Otoko, but she's definitely like an older sister to Otoko. And to Yasuie's daughter. I'll talk about Yasuie in the father video, and I'll talk about Odin in the father video, and Sukeyaki in the father video. I gotta make some more notes on those ones, but I've got the brother video will be the next kind of the Brothers Day video. It might turn into a little bit of a series where I'll do like all the ones this year are all going to be about One Piece. And then if I had been doing this around Valentine's Day, I would have done a Valentine's Day one where I talk about the different canon couples in One Piece, which is not that many. There's a couple. There's Shiki and Rayleigh, and then there's Baby 5 and Sai, and there's a few other ones that are very much a canon couple in One Piece. They are very much either specifically they are married, Capone and Beige, Capone and Chiffon, and now Gotti and Lola, and Aladdin and Praline. There's ones that are specifically in a relationship with each other that are definitely in love. And I may go over, I might do that next year for the Valentine's Day one. I might just do that for Valentine's Day, and then feel like something else next year to go over, pick something else next year for the theme for now I'm going to talk about a lot of these different Disney moms and dads and brothers and sisters and blah 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 blah. But this year is One Piece stuff. So I have some anime content. So I think I hit the list for all the different mothers that I need to talk about for One Piece. If I missed one, please let me know. I think I got all of them. I got all the major ones. I got all the Straw Hat Moms. I got, a bunch of the other major ones that are in the story. If I missed one that you can think of that I completely, glossed over, that was, specifically mentioned, blah, 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 just, comment on that just so I know, and I'll see if I can, if it's something that was a major thing that I missed, then, I might make something about that. But, this is what I get. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And since this is Mother's Day, I hope that maybe you watch this video and then you hopefully remember to get your mother either a nice card or some chocolates or some flowers, or take her out to eat if you can, or make her something nice for dinner, or, something nice for your mom if she's a good mom. If she's a mom like Lin Lin, or like did it like Sabo's mom, don't get her anything. If she's a bad mom, just no. If she's a good mom, then do that. Or if there's like a mother figure in your life, go and do something nice for her, or something along those lines. Do that. So that's what we have. As I said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. And happy Mother's Day to my mom and to my sister and to all of my aunts and my cousins that have kids, and not that they'll probably end up watching this video. Happy Mother's Day to any mothers that watch this. So thank you very much. Bye. A wife who loses her husband is called a widow. A husband who loses a wife is called a widower. A child who loses his parents is called an orphan. There is no word for a parent who loses a child. That's how awful the loss is.